She was taken at 9, raised by the people who killed her family. She grew to love them, became one of them. But when the white men rescued Cynthia Ann Parker nearly 25 years later, it wasn't salvation. It was another kind of captivity. In May of 1836, the Parker family had just completed building Fort Parker in what is now Limestone County, Texas. They were pioneers, among the first white settlers to push into the edge of Comancheria, the vast territory controlled by the Comanche. It was a bold and dangerous move. The family had heard stories of raids, but the land was fertile, and the promise of a new beginning outweighed the fear. On the morning of May 19th, a group of Comanche, Kiowa, and Wichita warriors approached the fort waving a white flag. The settlers inside debated whether to open the gates. The Parkers, trying to keep peace, allowed a small group in. It was a mistake that would cost them dearly. In moments, the warriors turned on them. What followed was swift and brutal. 5 people were killed. Several more were taken captive. Among them, a 9-year-old girl named Cynthia Ann Parker. What happened next defied the expectations of everyone who knew her. Cynthia wasn't treated as a slave or bargaining chip. Instead, she was adopted into a Comanche band, raised by them, and absorbed into their culture. Over time, she became a Comanche woman in every way that mattered. She was given a new name, Nadua. She learned their language, their customs, their way of life. The child who had once played behind wooden stockade walls now rode bareback across the plains, skilled with a bow and at home in the wild. As the years passed, the search for Cynthia faded into myth. Stories circulated of a white woman spotted in Comanche camps, of a blue-eyed mother living deep in hostile territory, but no proof ever surfaced. Cynthia, for her part, didn't want to be found. She had married Pita Nocona, a respected Comanche war chief. Together they had 3 children. She had become one of the people who had once been her captors, not by force, but by choice. She belonged. Then, in December of 1860, everything changed. Texas Rangers, led by Lawrence Sullivan Ross, raided a small Comanche encampment near the Pease River. It was supposed to be a quick strike against raiders, but what they found was something else. Amid the chaos, a woman was captured. She was pale-skinned, with light hair and blue eyes. Clutching a small child, she tried to flee, but was caught. When questioned, she could barely speak English. She didn't know her age, but one word she recognized: Parker. She was Cynthia Ann. The Rangers called it a rescue. The newspapers called it a miracle. But Cynthia cried when they took her away. She begged to go back to her husband, her sons, her people. Her pleas were ignored. Instead, she was returned to the world that had once been hers, but was now foreign. She was taken from fort to fort, put on display as the white squaw. Eventually, she was sent to live with her uncle in East Texas. But this was no homecoming. Cynthia couldn't adapt. She had lost the language, the customs, the religion of her childhood. Her clothing felt strange. The buildings were confining. Her life in the Comanche world had been hard, but it had been hers. Worse still, she was told she would never see her husband again. Pita Nocona, heartbroken, reportedly died a short time later. Her eldest son, Quanah, managed to evade capture, but Cynthia never saw him again either. She was cut off entirely from the family she had built. In 1864, tragedy struck again. Her youngest daughter, Prairie Flower, grew sick and died. After that, Cynthia seemed to give up. She stopped eating, stopped talking. Those around her said it was as if she had already left the world. She died in 1871, buried under the name Cynthia Ann Parker, in a grave far from the plains where she had once ridden freely. But her story didn't end there. Her son, Quanah Parker, would grow to become the last great Comanche chief. Unlike many before him, he adapted. He led his people through the transition to reservation life, fighting not with weapons, but with diplomacy. He honored both sides of his heritage, never forgetting his mother's suffering. For generations, Cynthia Ann Parker's story was told as a tale of a lost girl rescued from savagery. But the truth is more complicated. She was taken, yes, but then she chose. Her return was not a salvation. It was a second captivity. She lived between two worlds and was truly at home in neither. Her life is a reminder of the human cost of conquest and the pain carried by those caught between cultures, claimed by both, but truly belonging to neither. Thank you for listening to Deserted Trails. If this story moved you, consider joining us again as we uncover more forgotten truths from the American frontier.